And welcome to Whiskey Politics. I'm Dave Sussman, your host and purveyor, whiskeypolitics.net. You can find us at ricochet.com and your favorite podcast application of your choice. Please don't forget to give us a 5-star rating at iTunes if that's where you're listening, Stitcher or Google Play. You can also find us at YouTube, and if you're listening, there is a video version of this at YouTube right now and soon to be on a television station which we will be announcing. I'm delighted to be back here in Malibu, California, sitting with Gary Graham. Gary Graham is a journeyman actor, has been around for many years, needs no introduction for sci-fi fans out there, Alienation, Star Trek, and many other shows and television and movies over the years. Gary, welcome. How are you today?
Thank you, David. I'm happy to be here. I'm great. I'm doing great.
So,
what a pretty day! Beautiful, gorgeous April day. And,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No, it's a wonderful time of year to be here, and it certainly justifies the whole California, just the surus that we all feel living here, the angst, the sanctuary state. People say, "How the heck do you guys even stay out there?" And
absolutely,
you come out on a day like this.
And I didn't even want to come out here and do this interview. But you said it's Malibu. I said, "Oh, I'm down." Yeah. Any excuse to get out here. Call it work.
Yeah. So one of the reasons we wanted to have you on the show is your political perspective coming from Hollywood, which is an outlier for today. Most people think of Hollywood as an extreme left group of folks, philosophers and philosopher kings, if you will. And you've stood out against that over the years, and I want to talk more about that as we get into this. But my first question for you, and a lot of fans that are going to be watching this, especially those that have watched Star Trek and Alienation over the years, let's go back a few decades. How did you even get started in the work of becoming an actor in Hollywood?
Purely by accident.
Okay.
I was a pre-med student at UC Irvine, and it was about my third year, and I had a pretty good grade point average going in, but it was coming upon the time to start applying for good medical schools. So I was sitting around on a 3.4 grade point average. I said, I got to boost that up. I want to make sure I get into my choice for medical school. So I started looking around for electives, and I wasn't interested in philosophy, civics, no, arts, maybe arts. Art, drawing, ceramics, no, acting, drama. Wow, wait a minute, wow. Acting, now that sounds like lots of fun and easy A, and it would kind of bring me out of my shell as I envisioned. People hear me say that you were shy, and I go, yeah, I was shy when I was in college. I was shy, and people go, no, I know you're not shy. But I was shy. So I just thought, acting a little bit, let me try that. So I jumped into it, and I loved it right away, and I found that it was, I just liked getting on stage and pretending like no one was watching me. Just there's the fourth wall. And I felt a certain, oddly, for a shy guy, I felt an odd freedom in that. A freedom to express myself because, I didn't know anybody was watching, even though there's a classroom staring at you. So I just kind of fell in love with that. And I met a girl that I really liked, and she was a big star out there in the musical comedy world, and I started hanging around her and kind of neglecting some of my science classes and my calculus classes and all that. And about a year in, I just decided that, you know what, this is what I love. This is what calls to my heart. This is what really excites me, gets me up out of bed with a real lust for life. And so I switched majors and became a drama major and learned everything I could in 2 years in film and stage work and acting. And then I launched myself. I said, kids don't do this at home. Get your degree. But I didn't get my degree. I just launched myself toward Hollywood and jumped into acting classes and going and got an agent, did a play, got an agent, started making the rounds, and it took a long time, but I got my first jobs and started doing one line here, which led to 5 lines there and 3 scenes there, and I started building a career. And I turned around 20 years later, and I had a career, and I thought, wow, how'd that happen? And you know how it happened? I'll tell you the truth. When I didn't discover this until years later in retrospect, but I would sit out. I remember sitting out at my parents'. I lived at my parents' house, and I would just look out over the horizon, and I would daydream. And I didn't daydream. I was a pre-med student. I didn't daydream about being a doctor, doing rounds at a hospital and surgery, which is what I thought I should be daydreaming about. I daydreamed because I was a movie buff, and so was my mom, and we would stay up late at night watching movies and trying to guess the obscure character actors and guessing the plot and talking about movies. For some reason, I had a great interest in movies, and when I would daydream watching the horizon, I would daydream about me on a movie set, acting a scene with another actor, and visualizing a camera swinging around and getting an overshot and then zooming in on a close-up, and then I'd kind of wake myself from this daydream and say, what the hell was that? What am I dreaming about this crap? And I'd forget about it, but I kept coming back to this, and I would daydream about being a movie actor long before it ever occurred to me to even take an acting class. And I would caution anybody who daydreams, be careful of what you dream about, because that's where you're going to go. There's this cybernetic process inside the mind that just directs you. Every little micro decision you make, it directs you toward what you put in that, which you
Was this
program.
some kind of a sixth sense for you? I mean, what
was.
was that?
It was. Well, I read this book called Psycho-Cybernetics a long time ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it just talked about this cybernetic process, like a homing head torpedo. The homing head torpedo, when launched, makes 1,000 little corrections until it gets its goal. And the subconscious mind is like that. If you program your mind, if you put the goal, the target in your mind, your subconscious directs your conscious mind to head for that goal. And I caution people that so keep your thoughts very upbeat and very positive, because if you envision your life and your future as negative and downtrodden and filled with all sorts of difficulties, that's what you're going to create for yourself. So I ended up creating an acting career in my mind years before I even stepped into an acting class. Yeah. Which is really weird when you think about it. But that happens.
Did you see a particular genre? Because you are very much a sci-fi character actor, aren't you?
People ask me, have you ever done any other stuff other than sci-fi? I go, look me up, Gary Graham on imdb.com.
There's a lot of other
stuff. I've done
zillions
of things in other TV movies and TV series and all that. It's just that those shows don't have conventions, and I suddenly was welcomed into the world of conventions, which is lots of fun. And
I want to talk about that.
What's not to love?
In a minute.
You show up, people love you, and you talk about yourself,
right?
And you sign autographs, and they pay you a lot of money. I mean, what is not to love about that? So I do love it.
Yeah. So, what decade was this when you first decided? And what did, first of all, when you went for the easy A, then you came home and you said to your parents, Mom, Dad, medical school not for me. I'm going to go and audition for gigs.
Ironically, my mother, who was the artist, she'd been on stage in college. She was a singer. I thought she would understand. My dad, who was total science guy, science-driven, self-made man, the doctor, owns hospitals. I thought he would hit the ceiling. So I told them both. My mom was just, she was dismayed. She just
mortified.
Mortified. She was just couldn't believe. What are you doing? My dad, however, just says, well, Gary, I've always taught you you can be anything and do anything you want as long as you set your mind to it. You're going to be an actor, just try to be the best you can. Wow. Yeah, right? And I thought, geez, agreement with my dad, or at least tolerance. And my mom is years later, even after I'd done Alien Nation, she said, well, you still can go to medical school. It's not too late. Not too late.
That's
God
great.
Bless her.
So almost a reverse reaction of what you would have expected. The movie buff mom and the left brain father.
Yeah.
And they kind of both
Yeah.
Wow.
So I just went, and but you know what? Years into a career.
Yeah.
I'd done TV movies, starred in a couple of TV movies, and my dad didn't know how to talk about acting. The whole concept of drama and acting was just so foreign to him. He would say, "Well, Gare, how you doing with your play acting?" And I said, "Play acting? God."
Does play acting pay the bills?
Suddenly I'm 7 years old again, in shorts, running around with the neighborhood kids who were, recreating Ben-Hur with tricycles and cardboard. Dad, play acting, yeah. Well, but you know what? You know what got respect from my dad was his favorite show was JAG.
Oh,
Judge
yeah.
Advocate General. Yeah. And I got a recurring role on JAG. And suddenly he looked at me with a little more respect.
Wow.
Because I was playing.
You were in prime time.
I was in prime time. I had a buzz cut, a mustache, and I was a captain of an aircraft carrier, for gosh sakes.
Yeah.
So there you go. That was nice to see before he passed, that he got to see me in his favorite TV show.
Wow. So for those that didn't follow the series or aren't aware of the series, from what I understand, Alienation was it came out for one season, but then explain how it went from one season of episodes to like an annual event for 4 or 5 years.
Right. Well, it played one season, and then they canceled us.
Right.
And repeated that season. So people who hadn't seen it before, or they hadn't seen all the episodes before, because we did 21 episodes and a pilot, it just repeated. No explanation, it just repeated. And during the time after we were canceled, we started picking up an audience. Started gaining the numbers and getting some attention. And there was a group called the Viewers for Quality Television. Dorothy Swanson, I remember her name. She petitioned loudly and longly for Alienation to come back, and people were picketing out front on the picket line for bringing Alienation back. I just thought, isn't that sweet? I love that. But no, it's gone. But 4 years later, when they had a regime change, Barry Diller left and somebody else, Peter Chernin, came in, and they revisited the notion. They said, we should bring Alienation back. Let's bring it back. And they brought us back not as a series again, but they brought us back for TV movies. And we did, for the next 2 or 3 years, we did 5 TV movies. And I always thought that Alienation, because it was mostly focused on relationships, and not so much solving the crime and all. It was all about relationships between the humans and the Tinctonese, the newcomers, and it worked great in a 1-hour format. 2-hour format, it's because it's the 2-hour format. You got to get very grand. We got to take it to outer space. We got to not just save Los Angeles. We have to save the entire world.
Right.
The magnitude just required that. So I guess they just got tired of George and Matt saving the world, and 5 TV movies, and that was it.
Instead of doing the annual movies, why didn't they just do another series?
I don't know.
It was a strategic decision to...
Yeah, and I don't know what the thinking behind it was,
okay.
But they went with it, and I said, okay.
Yeah. And was it the same primary cast from the original series in all 5 movies?
Exactly,
okay.
Same cast,
Yeah. Now, that opened the door to you to Star Trek, right?
Well, what opened the door was just they were notorious for these cattle call auditions in Star Trek.
Okay.
From the beginning of the first generation and all throughout. And I, between the first generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, I had done maybe 9 or 10 auditions. So by the time I got the call for Enterprise to come in and I had done an episode in the Voyager. In Voyager, played an Alcompan. Had ESP abilities, and I come in. I go, I'm so
kind of like you did in grad school. about your future.
Exactly. I just went in and I just took a guess because I really wasn't up to speed with Vulcans. I didn't know really the backstory of Vulcans. I just thought they had no emotions and they just talked very so I kind of took a stab at it.
Right.
And it seemed to work. And the rule in Hollywood is when you get hired to do something, they hired you for your reading, so just do that. Concentrate on that. Yeah. That's the key. So I showed up on set after this long makeup and hair and a costume. Getting into the costumes, they were so elaborate. It took 20 minutes just to get in my robe. And I walked onto the set, and I knew all my lines, and I thought I knew the character because they'd hired me based on my guess. And I walked up to Rick Berman, the executive producer, and he looks at me and goes, "You look like a Vulcan." I said, "Well, Rick, I'm not sure I feel like a Vulcan. Can you tell me about the Vulcans?" And he goes, let's take a walk. So he puts his arm around me and walk around the lot, and he tells me about the Vulcans and their history and how they, far from being without emotions, they're extremely emotional. They're extremely mercurial and volcanic in their emotions. And they realized this centuries ago. They realized they must curtail their impulses, their emotional impulses, if they were to survive as a species. So they set about doing that in a very methodical, Zen way, and came up with the Vulcan way, the way of containing and trusting logic and reason and curtailing emotional knee-jerk responses like we humans are so prone to. And I said, that's great. So that makes so much more sense about the scenes I've got coming up. Yeah. And 10 minutes later, we were on the set doing those scenes that I had no clue how to approach. And suddenly it all made sense. And the key to my character was I got from a line that Archer says to me when I raise my voice, because I'm getting frustrated and flummoxed and angry even, and I raise my voice suddenly, and everyone stops and stares, and Commander Archer says, "Well, wow, raise your voice to make a point. You have been on Earth too long." This is a guy he's a Vulcan, and he's been on Earth too long. He's starting to adapt some of these human. And it's driving him crazy, and he's highly embarrassed by it. There's the key to my character. So I held that.
It's kind of Spock-like. It's absorbing the humanity a bit.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and Spock had more of an excuse because he was half human.
Half, right.
Me, I was fully Vulcan, but I've been on Earth too long. Yeah. I'm influenced by it. Pretty soon I'll be watching the Super Bowl with a beer in my hand and eating Cheetos. So it was. People say, what was the most fun you had on a set? Thinking I'm going to say Saval, Star Trek, and it wasn't. It was very difficult. It was the most difficult thing I've ever done, to actually experience the emotions, feel them, and suppress them. If you just become an automaton, people see right through that. But this Saval was constantly battling to rein it in, to keep it all in, and that was an excellent exercise for an actor, and the most challenging thing I had ever done, and one of the things I'm most proud of, really.
It's almost Shakespearean. I mean, what Roddenberry had created in that. And listen, I'm a child of the original series. When Abrams rebooted in 2009. Right? And the movie came out. My father, just a personal little anecdote here, my father was about to pass away from cancer, and he was at home for hospice, and we got him out of the house to go see the reboot. And it was me and him in the theater, and when Spock showed up in that cave, suddenly, that just completely, everybody in the audience, right. I had tears, because it was everything we grew up with. And what is it about Star Trek, that series, the humanity you talk about, the character development, that is such an integral part of our society? I mean, I think for me personally, it's more than Star Wars.
Yes, and I don't know, but I am equally fascinated by it and thrilled to be a part of the franchise.
Yeah,
the family of Star Trek. But I've experienced it all over the world. We just got back from England. I'm going to Germany in 2 weeks.
And you're doing these conventions.
Yes,
you got fans
yes,
lined up.
Yes, talking to people about Star Trek.
50 years.
It's amazing, and it shows no sign of. I thought after the 50-year anniversary 2 years ago, I thought, well, it'll start to. It shows no sign of petering out. If anything, it just new generations are waking up, and even watching the original series and gaining affection for the subsequent offshoots, the franchises, and it's just a beautiful thing. Roddenberry struck such a real note in the heart of humanity, in everyone's heart, about questing for a better species, making the quest for being a better man, a better human, a better Vulcan, and we can all relate to that, and it's beautiful. I'm proud and honored.
It is, and you're part of a storied franchise.
Yeah, I'm proud,
it's a legacy.
Proud to be there.
Yeah,
it's an interesting story. When I had done maybe 3 or 4 episodes of Enterprise, and I was reading for something else, another project, and I was in there, and I bumped into an old friend of mine. I think I dated his sister years back, but we were acquaintances. I won't say friends, but acquaintances.
Right.
And it had been tough for this guy. He'd been in some major movies, and he just says, "Gosh, Gary, it's just tough out there, isn't it?" And I looked at him and I thought, well, when hasn't it been tough?
Right.
The profession we chose, it's always been tough. I said, yeah, it's tough. He goes, what do you do? He was really, it was a plaintive plea. Give me some answers. What do you do? And I go, well, there's the occasional Star Trek, and he just cut me off with a burst of laughter. That was the funniest thing he'd ever heard. In this casting office, he's just cracking up. Occasional Star Trek. He just was laughing, and I felt offended. I was taken aback. I'm going, God, it's like I'm being insulted for doing Star Trek.
Yeah.
And all fans and all people who do Star Trek, like that's the bottom branch of the tree or something. And I thought, no, it's a wonderful franchise. It's a wonderful job. It's very fulfilling creatively.
Yeah.
So,
right.
That's what I felt like saying.
So going back to the legacy, you got back from England. You're doing these shows all over the world, literally. These people are lining up for hours to get a signature of yours, to get a selfie. All right. I mean, what is that? What makes somebody get out of their car, drive down to the convention center?
I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't cross the street to get an autograph. In fact, I hang out occasionally with stars, and it never occurs to me to ask for their autograph.
Right.
I just think, what would I want a piece of paper for, to prove that I was here or something? I mean, I got movie footage with these guys. What do I need But
it's like the William Shatner Saturday Night Live thing. Remember that one? It's like, get alive, you know.
But I don't. I'm not jaded like that. I'm quite affectionate with. I don't call them my fans. I call them my friends.
They line up for hours for you.
I just love them, and I don't just go back to my hotel room after I give my talk. I hang out with them. We talk. Because they're intelligent.
Do they get really granular with you? Like on episode 64, XYZ happened, and you know whatever.
They do.
Right? Do you know all the answers?
and sometimes it's rather frightening. I was at a Comic-Con years back, and I had there was an episode of Enterprise called The Mirror Darkly, or Through the Mirror Darkly, where it's an alternate universe where everyone is opposite. Suddenly, Archer is this conniving, evil, Naziist leader, and I am
Bizarro.
I am totally emotional and not centered and not logical and flighty, and T'Pol, this beautiful T'Pol, is just like a dragon lady on fire, just full of sexual passion and all that. And yet there's another part that where Archer comes out of himself and he's viewing himself as Archer, and making comments on it, and I'm having scenes with Scott Bakula, and I had to stop the filming, saying, "Wait, I'm sorry, I did read the script, but is he the alternate universe Archer, or is he the real Archer looking at himself, or is he now the real Archer suddenly?" And Scott Bakula throws up his hands and goes, "Oh my God, will someone give Mr. Graham the script?" He walks up, and I just cracked up, and he comes back, and he says, I know, buddy, it's tough. It's tough, but I didn't see the original series where they had that sort of mirror universe.
It's the Hall of Mirrors, right?
I just didn't get it. I didn't get it. And I did the scenes not getting it, and then I saw it, and it all played well, and I go, oh, that's what there is. Okay. So it's not always vital that the actor knows what he's doing.
Okay.
And many people say that I've been getting away with that for a long time. But one time at a Comic-Con convention, I was there, and there was this very thin, tall, kind of stark, translucent skin, like this guy he hasn't eaten in 2.5 years, and he just walks up, and he's kind of almost shaking. He looks at me, and he leans across. He says, "When you were piloting the Enterprise, did you have to take any extra training to know how to operate the warp drive?" And he leaned in, I go, "Well, it is make-believe, and I don't really know." And he goes, "No!"
Oh, no.
"You piloted the Enterprise. Did you receive special training for the warp drive?" And I thought, this is one of those situations where my next move should be considered very carefully.
Yeah.
And I looked across the hall, and about 100 yards away, I said, "Yes. There's a gentleman. You see way down there, the guy with the red shirt. He's got a red shirt, and he's kind of balding and he was our technical advisor. He advised me on the warp drive." He goes, "All right, I'm going to talk to him."
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Security.
And that guy somehow pays the rent.
I don't know what he was going to do.
Wow.
But he had me real nervous. And
wow.
I thought, okay, some of these guys take this thing a little too seriously.
Yeah, there's some deep fandom out there.
Deep.
Right.
And I just smile and say, "Talk to that guy."
Yeah, I think that was a good call. Send him to Scotty.
Just send him far away, and I can regroup and figure out my next move.
Yeah.
All
right, so, well, that really gives us a wonderful way to segue into another part of the discussion, which I'd love to discuss with you, because we talk about Gene Roddenberry and his ideology towards a social utopian society, which is a lot of people look at Star Trek from an ideological standpoint, and they say, "Oh yes, if only if." But obviously there's economic systems in the world, and there's realities, and
there's human nature.
It's human nature, and a lot of that Hollywood seems to forget, especially Hollywood actors, people that are very vocal. And obviously Hollywood is extremely vocally left. All right, we see the Me Too-isms, Oscar So White, and all of these different activist approaches to things. You, however, for the folks that don't follow you, I'm sure a lot of our fans that are watching this already know this, you are very vocal for conservative causes. You've put yourself out there. You've basically said, "Look, this is who I am. This is what I believe." Has that impacted you professionally?
The short answer is, I don't know. But the longer answer is probably. It does seem coincidental that around the time that I started getting vocal on social media and started writing for Andrew, I met Andrew Breitbart.
Right.
And he said, "Well, I understand you write." And I said, "Well, yeah, I write." And he said, "Why don't you send me a couple of your essays?" I go, "Okay, well." And then we parted, and neither one of us were impressed with the other. I could tell. I wasn't impressed with him. He wasn't impressed with me. Then he read my stuff, and he called back the next day, said, I want you to write your opening salvo. I'm starting big Hollywood. I want to put you on the first day. I want you to write something just from your heart. So I did. I wrote a thing called on Breitbart. What was it? One Pissed Off Dude. It was the Obama administration had just started.
And this is about 2010?
When was it? 20. I was further back. He was elected in 2008.
Yeah.
And it was about 2009. January of 2009 is when we launched. And I was just pissed off. And I was a grumpy conservative, and I wrote this thing, One Pissed Off Dude, and it got such a response. Greg Gutfeld and I got we were the winners of the heavy response on the first day, and then he said, "Wow, I'm gonna put you up in the front in the bow of the ship," and I started writing and. Going back a little bit, a few years prior to that, I had always kind of kept my mouth shut because I was kind of finding my way politically. Because I'd come from college. In college days, they convinced me that I need to be a socialist. I need to be a black armband wearing student for the Democratic Society, power to the people and ban the bomb and all that. And then I started going out into the world and earning my way and earning a living and seeing where my taxes went and started to slowly change and heard Ronald Reagan on the radio just by accident and oh no, here comes the right winger, and I started listening to him and at the end of his 20-minute broadcast I thought, oh no, he makes sense. He makes sense. I'll never get laid again. This is terrible. So I started paying attention and started just talking myself into what made sense to me, which was conservatism. Just less government is better, and more individual responsibility is better for any society. That's how we built what we have. So fast forward to writing for Breitbart, and it seems that suddenly all these job offers and these great auditions I was getting just kind of dried up within a couple of months. I got into it with a friend of mine who's a celebrated producer and screenwriter who's a committed lefty, and we just hammered it out on the thread. And I used to be on his softball team. We were good buds. And he just hammered into me, and I hammered back, and I said, well, there I'm declared. So, but the fate and state of my country is more important than whether I get auditions. So I just kind of stuck with that and said, damn the torpedoes.
Right.
Damn the torpedoes, man. It's full speed ahead. My country is that important to me, and I see freedoms and liberties whittled away and sold out, and it pisses me off. And so, if I'm not a big fan of celebrities spouting off for political points, because usually the ones that piss me off, I just say, hey, they shut up and sing or
right.
whatever it is.
Right.
But in my case, I said, well, okay, if I never work again, at least I can use whatever cachet or influence I have with people. Hey, listen to this point of view. This is another way of thinking about it. The media is not necessarily on your side. You may think they are, but they're not. They're into building the government up and restricting your freedoms.
So what a lot of people don't know is that there really is a lot more conservatism within Hollywood than people realize. The big A-list stars that spout off at the Oscars get all the attention, but you've got the Sinises, you've got the John Voights, you've got the Adam Baldwins, okay? We've met at a group that's now been disbanded, but there's other splinter groups that have been created in its wake. I mean, there is especially the working man, the guy behind the camera, right? There is a conservative.
There is indeed.
There is. So where is that? Why isn't that being highlighted? Why aren't people seeing that today?
People want to work. I talked to some of my younger friends who are very conservative, who want acting careers and are going for acting careers. And they say, God bless you, Gare, but you got yours. And I haven't even gotten on the boards like you have. So I'm a little, I kind of keep my opinions to myself regarding, my conservatism in Hollywood. And I understand that, and I'm completely empathetic about that. I'm not saying, screw that, shoot your mouth off, say your opinions. I say, you got to be careful. Sadly, you got to be careful.
Because it has impacted you.
It has impacted. I can pretend, I'm an individualist, and I believe in personal responsibility, and I've always thought that my career success or lack thereof is a result of what I do. It's not a result of somebody's animus or bad feelings about me being a conservative. It's because of what I do, and I don't know how much of that is true, and I really, because there's no way to measure it. I don't know if there's a blacklist in Hollywood and I'm on it.
Okay.
I don't know.
Has anybody ever said anything to you?
They've intimated such,
okay,
but without coming right out and saying it. And but I've kind of
there is a
live loose.
seething hatred. It is no longer a vein. It's a major artery. It's a coronary artery running through Hollywood right now against this president and anybody that is in support of this president.
It's true. And it doesn't just come from the left. It comes from the right as well, the never-Trumpers.
Yeah, you do have that too.
I made this comment the other day, and I believe it's true. I have had to unfriend more conservative Republicans who are never-Trumpers than I have foul-mouthed talking liberals who just won't shut up. I like to keep liberals around because I like people I like people seeing their viewpoints and fleshing it out, and because I like to engage them on these Facebook threads or Twitter threads or whatever. I like to engage them. It's sport.
You have fun with it.
It's the great the great American sport.
Yeah.
We don't have to have a fist fight.
Right.
But we can do some banter. And I have some wonderful friends, beautiful, wonderful people who are dyed-in-the-wool liberals, and they welcome a healthy debate as do I, and we still end and we shake hands and we hug and the love is still there. So I think that's the way to that's what separates America from third world countries. That if they don't like the way things are going, they get a bunch of soldiers together and they storm in and execute the people that they don't like.
Which has generally been what we've compared America to with free speech over the years, but you're also seeing that there is this push right now, especially from the left, and you're seeing it in academia, you're seeing it in culture, you are seeing it in media, where they are suppressing that speech.
And now you're seeing it in America. You're seeing it from the left.
Right. And so, this episode's being filmed 3 weeks after the first Roseanne episode rebooted, okay? And it blew up, 18 million viewers, right?
Oh, yeah.
People tuning into the network sitcom for the first time in 20 years.
And it's great. And I never watched Roseanne before.
Right.
But now I'm watching it, and just because...
So people are hungry for this.
It's so good.
Is that what is that message?
I think so. I think that spark that ignited nationwide a Trump presidency. I think the reason I think people are pissed off. People are pissed off at the left and at the right for being so gentlemanly about things, to keeping their decorum and all that, while the left has been fighting down and dirty in the trenches. And I say, hey, Republicans, wake up! It's time to get down and dirty with them. This rising above the fray and keeping proper decorum is bullshit. What is important? I have some great friends who are Navy SEALs, who are special operators, Green Beret and all that, and they'll tell you the way you win a fight is not by doing the honorable, fighting, making sure it's fair. Screw fair. There's only one thing that's important, and it's that win the fight. Win the fight. So I would say to Republicans, win the damn fight by any means. You don't have to sacrifice your integrity. Just win the fight. Get down and dirty with it.
What is it? You certainly have acrimony towards the Never Trumpers, and I understand that. And I've got some friends of mine that are trying to differentiate themselves between Reagan Republicans or Reagan conservatives and Trumpers. And I don't think the two are mutually exclusive, right? But Evan Sayed, our friend,
yeah,
he wrote an article, I think it was Town Hall.
He fights.
Right?
Brilliant article.
And it's exactly what it is that I think. I don't agree with everything Trump says. I would prefer he did things maybe in a different way in certain cases. But if you take a look at his long list of achievements, and he's only been in office for 15 months already, we would have been bowing down to a Romney or a Bush who would have done the same. He's done the things that you wanted as a conservative policies to be done. But why is it that they're trying to differentiate themselves? What do you say to the Never Trumpers now? I mean, there's policies that have worked.
I say, in retrospect, I don't say anything to them because they're going to see. They're going to see after a couple of years and go, well.
They haven't seen so far.
Well.
He's fighting the sanctuary states. He's got ISIS. He's got North Korea coming to the table. China's now balked on tariffs. Obviously, tax reform. He's repealed the individual mandate. I mean, that can go on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
These are all the things you'd want.
Yeah. Well, leadership doesn't always need agreement. He can lead anyway, and results are going to speak louder than any kind of argument I can make. The results, we just need to keep reminding people of what results he's getting, and we're moving toward. I'm an optimist. I was even an optimist during the Clinton years, through the dark ages of the Obama years. I am an optimist. I see a hope, and I see a positive movement forward. As long as we can just keep voicing our ideas and sharing what we believe to be the truth, and eventually good will win over evil, because America's a good place, and was founded with love and God and the highest ideals of man.
See, that's Reagan optimism right there.
Absolutely.
And that's why the two I don't think can be split. Right? So, right. I mean, you weren't always a Trump supporter. You, before we sat down, you were saying, hey, I was a Cruz guy, but, when Trump was the guy. And I was the same way. I'll call myself a reluctant Trump supporter who hoped and is now pleasantly surprised. I don't care about the porn star. I don't care about the left-wing talking points of the day. I don't even listen to it anymore because I take a look at results. I'm a business guy, and I take a look at results. At the end of the day, that's all I care about. The Never Trumpers, or they call themselves Trump, or whatever, against Trumpers. I don't even know what they want to call themselves anymore.
True conservatives.
Well, but that's the thing. These are true conservative results.
Exactly. The results speak louder than any argument we can make. So I say, my attitude about Never Trumpers is I'm patient.
Okay.
I hope they are. Because the truth will out.
It seems to me they would rather lose for for their ego, to satiate their ego, to say that I was right. So we're going to give up the House, and now Trump is going to be impeached, and blah blah blah. And see, I told you so. All the while foregoing all of the efforts that have been put forth.
It's a terrible cost to be right. They are willing to sacrifice all. The country, everything, just to be right, and I would rather win. I would rather win.
You need to be the SEAL.
Yeah,
you want to be the Navy SEAL. You want to win the fight.
We win the fight, and it is a fight. It's a fight for our country. It's a fight for our freedom.
Yeah,
it's a fight for the Constitution.
Talk to me a little bit about what you see for the future of culture, because we just touched upon it, and leftism has really ingratiated itself and taken over the culture, and it's not just been in the last 10 years, it's been the last 50, starting with pop culture, the media, obviously academia. You see it in every aspect of our lives. Anybody that doesn't follow politics really gets most of their news through late night, anti-Trump comedians. You say that you remain as an optimist. Taking a look around you, your surroundings in Hollywood here, what do you see in the next 5 to 10 years? I know, general question, but...
Hey, man.
Does Hollywood come back to the center, or does it just continue spiraling out of control to the left?
I have a tough time planning beyond 6 months. So for me to extrapolate 5 years, 10 years down the line, I don't know. I'm a Christian. I believe in Bible prophecy, actually. And I see a lot of bizarre things happening around the world that, oddly enough, are lining up perfectly with Bible prophecy, which was prophesied thousands of years ago in Isaiah, Daniel, and in Revelations. And I'm not at the point of David Koresh literalist, but man, there's some things in there that are just mind blowing. But I don't know, and I don't pretend to know. I won't point out a passage and say, well, see what happened in Lithuania today. That shows that's the sign. I don't know. I don't know. And we're warned about that. Even in the Bible, it says be ready, be prepared spiritually and all that, but don't read into a lot of things and think I've got the answer to all that, because it'll come like a thief in the night, as they say.
Yeah.
So, but again, optimism. It's not flesh and blood we war against. It's areas, the dominions in the interstitial spaces of matter in the spiritual realm. So it's a spiritual battle we're fighting, really. Good over evil.
You seem like a really deep guy.
I am. I know. Who would know?
What are you reading? What are you watching?
Geez. Right now I'm reading Tom Petty. Yeah.
I caught his very last show at the Hollywood Bowl a few days before he died.
Warren Zanes wrote this incredible book about Tom Petty. And I came to Petty late in life, really. Early on, I just thought, who's this guy? It just sounds like Bob Dylan,
Yeah.
And ironically toured with Bob Dylan, and I go, in fact, just to annoy my wife, I'll say, okay, let's everybody, what are you doing? Let's all talk like Bob Dylan. Everybody must get stoned. Stop it right now.
Yeah.
But I'm a deep guy, but I'm also a goof. A deep guy, goof. How do they square with each other? They don't. So I'm a mess, but
no, you could still have.
I'm thoughtful.
You could still have an inner child that comes out. There's nothing
Constantly.
wrong with that. Yeah.
It's getting them back.
But that's an intellectual curiosity, because if you look at the world through the eyes of a child, you sometimes you marvel at it. There's
yes.
I don't do drugs, but everybody went through college, and there was this moment where I learned about the magic mushrooms. And there was this chemical, and I forget the name of it now. It's 30 years ago. There's a chemical.
Psilocybin?
It allows you to see. I think it's the first one. It allows you to trigger something in the brain.
How do I know that?
I
read a book about it.
Yeah, it's just out there knowledge that we pick up. But it allows you to see the world through new eyes. So, like if you've ever been on mushrooms, or you had a friend that's been on mushrooms, you could look at a tree, and you'd be like, It's almost Huell Hauserish. It's like, oh my God, that is the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's an epiphany.
And the reason is because that is a chemical, and some people, and this is tinfoil hat stuff, right? I've probably been listening to too much early Joe Rogan, but there's a chemical that is not of this earth that somehow has miraculously made it into these mushrooms, that people say that has come from outer space, and the aliens dropped it here for us to take it, for us to see the world through their eyes.
Wow. I'm going to get together with Tom Cruise, and we're gonna figure this out. Scientology.
You want to talk about deep, right? But you if you look through the world through the eyes of a child, the inner child, you can sometimes marvel at it. It's also, I think it allows you to raise you to a higher plane over what the mere mortals are talking about and yapping about on TV, which is just stupidity, and you're seeing kind of the macro.
Yes, that's well put, actually, and I've been there, brother. I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what's crazy? It's 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. We haven't even been drinking whiskey today.
And it's called whiskey.
Whiskey politics.
Whiskey politics.
We had Linda's mimosas, the blueberry mimosas, but
that's
yeah. No, anyway, off on a tangent. But no, but you do seem like that you deep guy. You look at things through that lens, so coming back to the Hollywood, right, experiment as it were. They're focused on Me Tooism right now, and whatever the social justice issue of the day is. When you take a look at that, how do you react to it? What do you say? The red carpet speeches and this and that.
I laugh a lot. I do a lot of laughing, and I shake my head, and that's the real entertainment of Hollywood for me. Just to see how serious people take themselves, really. And I mean, my gosh, we got into this business. We got into acting and doing movies to get away from taking ourselves too seriously. We recite lines that other people wrote, and do it so convincingly. Lie, basically. We tell wonderful lies, completely believable lies. In fact, they're so believable. We believe them so much. We're able to invoke tears and strange emotional responses that surprise even us. And this is how we make our living. And it's just it seems that we all get it. We all get that this is just a silly way to make a living, even though it pays well and it's lots of fun and hard work. By the way, people think it's easy. It ain't. It's hard, but it's fun. And because they pay us so much money to do this thing that we love, we feel a little guilty. We feel that we need to give back. And so we need to adopt these causes.
Yeah.
And be the vanguard and carry the banner for these causes. And it just sounds so romantic to be a liberal, to fight for the underdog. And it takes it's a long exodus to get to the point where you see that if you ever get there, that the best way to help the underdog is through conservative principles of self-reliance and limited government and individual initiative and being responsible for your own actions. My gosh, let's just start there.
So if you say those things today, Gary, you are now branded as a racist and homophobe and blah, 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 right?
Hate-filled, intolerant.
But what about what you just said, which to me just sounds like common sense?
Yeah, duh.
Right?
Right?
It's the rules you learn in kindergarten. Treat others the way you want to be treated,
Exactly.
Work hard,
Exactly.
make your bed, Jordan Peterson type
and
stuff.
love your family.
Right.
Love your family. Take care of your friends, your family, your community. Don't job that stuff out to Washington, D.C. or Sacramento.
So what is that? How does that threaten the left, that approach to things?
Well, it's anathema to everything they believe. It's exactly, it decentralizes their power, spreads it out to the individual. It raises up the individual and sublimates the group, the collective. The left, their God is collectivism. We all move together as one, or we don't move at all.
Centralized power.
Centralized power. And it just sounds, they've done the most amazing promotion and advertising job on the world, on humanity, that has ever been known. Amazing lie that they've perpetrated on us, that if we all, communism, communism is the epitome of the great lie. that if we all pool our resources, and from those who can produce to those, and giving out to those who need, and all that dynamic breaks down real quickly when you factor in human motivation. What motivates a man? What makes a person get out of bed and put on their clothes and go to work hard? And leftism, collectivism, is all perpetuated on the notion of altruism, of these good. We're doing it for the country, for the group. We're doing it for that, and that'll take you so far. I can get motivated to help out the group and work, but not on a day-to-day basis. Eventually, you're going to want to say, well, what about my family? What about me? I'm working my butt off, and I'm getting exactly what this guy's getting, who's sitting on his butt just, spouting poetry or something. I go, hey, man, this is hard work. You want to come and give me a hand? He goes, oh, come on, man, it'll all work out. I'm saying, you can tell I spent some time as a hippie. Yeah. Well, I got pretty fed up with the hippies after a while. The lazy hippies didn't want to work hard like the energetic hippies like myself. And I started to realize that I'm not really a hippie.
Right.
Because I believe in getting compensated for my hard work. Yeah. And the harder I work, and the more ideas I bring to the table, and the more organizational skills that I invoke, the more I should be compensated. And let's get that on contractual agreement here. And now suddenly I'm not a hippie anymore. I'm a capitalist, and I'm earning for my family. And oh, by the way, I'm also very generous and kind-hearted and empathetic and compassionate. And I donate a lot to various organizations, and even the guy on the street. But I don't give something for nothing, because I don't believe that's a good paradigm. I don't like that. So if a guy's on the guy with a cardboard sign saying I'm pathetic. Basically, he doesn't say that, but basically I can't find work here. And I'm looking at it, and he doesn't. He's got all his limbs, and he's
easily 30-something.
Yeah, easily. You look strapping. I could hire you to paint me.
Right.
And I've actually offered people. I'm holding a $5 bill, a $10 bill. I'm saying, hey man, I got some work to do at my place, and I got $10 here. You want to come in a Lowe's stuff? Goes, hell no. Shit. Just give me $1. Okay. I mean, I can't hire you. You won't work, but you want me to give you $1.
Yeah.
If I see somebody playing a fiddle or something, or playing a flute, musicians, I got a soft spot for musicians. You can tell.
Yeah.
I'll say, hey man, I like that tune. Keep working, and I give them $1.
Yeah.
Because I got 12 seconds of enjoyment out of his little performance. That's worth $1.
Right. It's transactional.
So I do it. I do that all the time. I'm always walking around. If I walk out the door, I know I've got a bunch of ones in my pocket, and I'll throw them a couple of bucks.
Finishing up here real quickly, it's amazing because you talk about culture and academia, and the supposed smartest guys in the room take a look at everything that you've just talked about in history, where none of these systems, economic systems that they put forth, communism, socialism, have ever worked, and yet they still continue to push it. Well, maybe we just haven't done it well enough, or it hasn't been done well enough. You mentioned musicians. Talk about any work you got going on right now on that side of things.
I think I alluded to earlier. I've invented the Star Trek band genre. Well, not really invented. It's been around a while, but we have a group called the Sons of Kirk. Gary Graham and the Sons of Kirk, and we play it in conventions or cruises or whatever, and it's great fun. I get to hang out with my friends from Star Trek and the fans, who I call friends as well, and play rock and roll music. And
a lot of cover stuff, right?
A lot of cover, and plus we're writing a bunch of originals.
Oh, good.
Completely originals. Good. Yeah.
And where do folks find you? Sons of Kirk.
The Sons of Kirk. The Sons of Kirk on Facebook.
Okay.
And right there.
That's
and,
great.
And Gary Graham on Facebook.
And you're on Twitter?
Yeah, actor Gary Graham.
Actor Gary Graham.
Yeah, when I show up. I was kind of a infrequent visitor there, but...
well, we'd love to have you back to talk more about this. This is a lot of fun, Gary.
I'd be delighted, Dave.
Really do appreciate it.
Lots of fun.
Appreciate your time. And folks, follow Gary and check out his band Sons of Kirk. That sounds like a hoot. And you can follow us at Facebook, Whiskey Politics. Follow me at David Sussman, whiskeypolitics.net. Find us at Ricochet and on YouTube. And until next time, special thanks again to Gary Graham, and we'll be back again soon at Whiskey Politics.